Ever wish you had that like insider's guide to navigating the workplace? Something beyond just be yourself and all that.
Right, like a real playbook for dealing with tricky situations.
Exactly. So today we're cracking open the career playbook of software veteran Michael D. Callahan.
Oh, I like him already.
We've got blog posts, excerpts from his book, things I wish they'd taught me at Code Camp, even a peek at his bonus material for listeners.
All right, you've got my attention. What kind of career wisdom are we talking about?
We're talking about hard-won wisdom with a side of cautionary tales, the kind of stuff you learn from experience, not some cheesy motivational poster. You ready to dive in?
Absolutely, let's do it. What's the first nugget of wisdom Callahan throws our way?
Well, he dives right into this idea that we all have prejudices, and they can really trip us up, especially at work.
Prejudice, huh? Sounds a bit intense for a career deep dive.
It's not always about, like, overt bias,
Yeah.
He's talking about those subtle ways we judge the source of information, not just the information itself.
I see. So it's not just about what's being said, but who's saying it.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, Callahan shares this anecdote, kind of a wake-up call, about a colleague of his, someone he respected, considered a friend even, who ended up being accused of sexual harassment.
Oh, wow. Okay, now that's serious.
And Callahan admits that he initially dismissed the accusations because he was so sure this guy, his friend, couldn't possibly be capable of that.
I can see how that would be a really tough situation. You want to believe the best in people, especially those you're close to.
Right. And it's a powerful example of how our personal feelings about someone can completely cloud our judgment, even and maybe especially when it comes to serious accusations.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap? How do we separate our personal feelings from the facts of a situation?
Well, Callahan uses this really interesting example, almost like a thought experiment involving presidential quotes. Imagine reading statements about, say, the economy, healthcare, whatever, and having to guess who said it. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump.
Ooh, that's tricky. I can already feel my own biases kicking in. I bet I'd be totally off on half of those.
Exactly. And that's precisely Callahan's point. He's saying that we bring all this baggage, our existing opinions about these presidents, to how we interpret their words, even when those words are about something completely unrelated to our personal feelings about them.
That's such a clever way to make you confront your own biases. But how does this translate to, say, something like a product meeting?
That's where it gets really interesting. Think about it. If you already have a negative opinion about someone on your team, are you really hearing their feedback?
Or are you just waiting for them to, prove you right?
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, are you giving more weight to an idea simply because it comes from someone you already respect?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's like that saying, don't shoot the messenger.
It's more like, don't confuse the messenger with the message. We need to constantly be checking ourselves and making sure we're judging the idea of the work, whatever it is, based on its own merits, not on who it's coming from.
That's so important. It's about being objective, which, let's face it, can be really difficult in the heat of the moment.
Especially when you're under pressure to make a decision.
Speaking of things that can cloud our judgment, I hear Callahan has some strong opinions about acronyms.
Oh, he does. And you know what? He loathes them.
Wait, what's wrong with acronyms? They seem pretty harmless, even helpful sometimes. Saves you a few syllables.
He would argue they're far from harmless, especially in the workplace. Callahan finds they create more confusion than clarity, particularly for newcomers.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be frustrating if you're the one out of the loop. Did he have a particularly memorable experience with this?
He tells this story about being asked to produce a ROM and having absolutely no clue what it meant in that context.
Oh no, I've been there. It's like everyone else is speaking a secret language. So what did ROM stand for in that situation?
Rough order of magnitude. Can you imagine the sinking feeling of being expected to just know that?
And the fear of asking for clarification because you don't want to look incompetent?
It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So how does Callahan recommend navigating this acronym minefield?
Well, he's not suggesting we abolish acronyms altogether, let's be realistic.
Right, that's not happening.
But he's a big advocate for teams keeping a central glossary of acronyms.
That seems so simple, but it's genius.
Right. It could prevent a lot of awkward silences and misunderstandings.
It's like having a cheat sheet for office jargon. I love it.
And it circles back to that earlier point about not confusing ignorance with incompetence. Maybe that person who just used a string of acronyms isn't trying to make you feel dumb. They just haven't considered that not everyone is privy to the same insider language.
Creating that environment where people feel safe asking for clarification, it's so important. Speaking of navigating potentially awkward conversations, I hear Callahan has quite the story about disagreeing with the boss.
Oh, this one is a masterclass in what not to do when you think you're right.
Oh, I'm so here for the what not to do stories. Lay it on me. How do you handle this disagreement? Not well, I'm guessing.
Not well at all. So picture this: Callahan's working on a project, and management, they're dead set on using Visual Basic. You know, tried and true.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, Callahan, he's convinced .NET is the way to go, the future, all that. He was so sure he was right, in fact, that he basically went rogue.
Wait, he ignored his manager? Tried to sneak one past him? Oh, this is going to be good.
Bold move, right? He basically went ahead and implemented the whole thing in .NET, unauthorized.
Oh no, the classic developer move. Ask forgiveness, not permission. I can already see where this is going.
It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. He describes this incredibly vivid scene, a team-wide meeting online, his manager's there, even the big boss, the HP enterprise architect. Everyone's gathered, expecting a progress report.
The tension must have been thicker than dial-up internet.
Yeah,
So what happened? Did he get fired on the spot?
pretty much. Callahan, he proudly presents his unauthorized .NET code, probably expecting a pat on the back for being so innovative.
Oh, honey, no. Wrong audience for that.
And the architect, who had actually been supportive of .NET initially, just unloads on Callahan in front of everyone.
Oof. Talk about a public takedown.
Yeah.
I bet that was brutal.
It gets worse. Not only is his code completely rejected, but he's basically stripped of any decision-making power, put on probation.
Ouch. Yeah, I'd be cleaning out my desk after that.
Callahan, he walked right out. And looking back, he realizes that being technically right isn't always enough.
So picking your battles, right?
Exactly. Sometimes you have to play the game a little to get things done, even if it means swallowing your pride a bit.
Sometimes the honey approach works better than the vinegar, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what's next? What other career-saving advice does Callahan have up his sleeve?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of kindness. Like, even when you're facing a travel nightmare, sometimes a little bit of kindness can go a long way.
Okay, now this is a story I need to hear. We're talking airport drama, delayed flights, that kind of thing.
Picture this. Callahan is stuck in the Atlanta airport. Storms are raging outside, flights are delayed, and everyone is stressed out of their minds.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and it's never pretty.
And of course, people are taking it out on the gate agent, even though she's clearly doing her best.
Oh, I've been there.
Mhm.
Watching that slow motion meltdown happen, feeling bad for the gate agent who has zero control over the weather. It's like they expect her to wave a magic wand and make the storm disappear.
Right. But Callahan, instead of adding to the chaos, he does something unexpected. He offers the gate agent his bag of nuts.
See, now that is true kindness. Putting good karma out into the universe.
Yeah.
I bet he got rewarded for that, right?
Yeah.
Like a free upgrade to first class.
He absolutely did. Not only did they put him up in a hotel, but they gave him meal vouchers and, you guessed it, a first-class seat on the next flight out.
No way. See, good things do happen to good people. But what's the career takeaway here? Should we all be carrying around bags of nuts for stressed out coworkers?
It's not about the nuts themselves, but the bigger picture. Callahan's point is that small acts of kindness, especially when they're unexpected, create these really positive ripples.
Okay, I can see that. It's about building a reputation, right? Being known as someone who's not just competent, but also kind and considerate, especially in those high-stress situations.
Exactly. And speaking of reputations, Callahan doesn't shy away from tackling the sometimes murky waters of social media and how it can impact your career.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one these days. Social media can be a minefield. What does Callahan have to say about that?
He tells this cautionary tale about a coworker whose idea of a fun weekend involved maybe a little too much fun at a strip club.
Oh, no. I can already see where this is going.
And of course, it was all documented on Facebook for the world to see, including, unfortunately, their clients.
Oof. Yeah, that's not a good look. It's that reminder that even if something is perfectly legal, it can still reflect poorly on you professionally. And, let's be real, it can damage your employer's reputation too.
Exactly. Callahan's own strategy is to have a locked down Facebook for close friends and family and a public Twitter account that's more aligned with his work. It's about being deliberate and strategic about how you present yourself online.
It's like having a personal life and a professional life online, just like we do offline. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of being careful about what we share, didn't Callahan almost get arrested for being a little too honest?
He did. Remember that job he quit for ethical reasons? The one where he refused to lie on his resume? Well, leaving that job almost landed him in jail, and it all came down to some CDs.
Wait, CDs? Seriously? How did that almost lead to jail time?
So Callahan was trying to do the right thing right. He returned some CDs he'd accidentally kept from the job. Just a couple of old discs, nothing major.
Seems harmless enough. So what went wrong?
His former boss accused him of stealing source code. We're talking criminal charges, the whole 9 yards.
Are you serious? That sounds like a total setup.
It gets worse. The exit paperwork Callahan signed included a whole affidavit stating he didn't have any company property. Those CDs, even though he had completely forgotten about them, suddenly became a legal nightmare.
That is terrifying. It's a good thing he didn't just blindly sign those papers. I bet that was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
What did he learn from that experience?
2 really important things. First, never ever sign anything without having a lawyer look it over, especially if it mentions penalty of perjury. And second, when it comes to former employers, sometimes it's better to just destroy their stuff than try to be helpful.
Wow, that's harsh. But I can see how that experience would make you want to protect yourself at all costs. So besides lawyer up and shred everything, what other nuggets of wisdom does Callahan offer?
Oh, he's got a whole treasure trove of communication tips. Like, he's a big advocate for slowing down.
Slowing down? Really? That seems counterintuitive.
I know, right? But he actually advocates for speaking and reading more slowly, arguing that it makes you more impactful.
Interesting. How does that work?
He explains that when you slow down, people actually pay more attention. It also gives you time to gather your thoughts, Choose your words carefully. It's about quality over quantity, being memorable for the right reasons.
That's actually really insightful. It's like the opposite of what we're always told to be: quick, concise, to the point. Okay, I'm intrigued. What else?
He also has this great email template he swears by for getting to the point efficiently.
Oh, I need that. Email's my kryptonite.
It's all about conveying only the essential information: the problem, possible solutions, your recommendation, and a call to action for whoever needs to make the final decision.
Short and sweet. I like it. Okay, what else? There's got to be more.
He also emphasizes the importance of learning to say no.
Oh, that's a tough one. Especially in a workplace setting.
Right. But it's not about just shutting things down. He's big on being a problem solver. So he recommends using what-if questions to explore alternatives and find solutions that work for everyone.
So it's less, no, I can't do that, and more like, okay, what if we try this instead? That's a much better approach.
Exactly. And finally, he's a big believer in keeping grievances private. Unless, of course, it's Festivus.
Ah, yes. The airing of grievances, a holiday tradition we can all get behind. But in all seriousness, I get what he's saying. It's about being professional, respectful of everyone involved. Public shaming rarely accomplishes what you hope it will, and it can often backfire.
And no one wants to be that person.
Definitely not. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from confronting our own biases to navigating the treacherous waters of acronyms and social media. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they process all of this Callahan wisdom? It's a lot to unpack, for sure. So for you, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from all of this? What really stuck with you?
Honestly, it's that reminder that communication, it's not just about the words themselves. It's about all those subtle things, like understanding those unspoken dynamics at play. Being aware of our own biases, for sure, and being mindful of how we come across to others. Choosing kindness whenever we can, even when it's tough.
And hopefully avoiding those major career-ending blunders along the way. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they process all this Callahan wisdom?
His stories, they might seem a little out there sometimes, like, could that really happen? But they really highlight those universal truths about navigating the workplace.
We've all been there, right?
Exactly. We've all had those moments where we misjudged a situation, said the wrong thing, let our egos get in the way a little bit. Callahan's advice, it's a good reminder that we can learn from those experiences.
Learn from our mistakes.
Become better communicators. And that ultimately makes us more successful in every aspect of our careers.
Couldn't agree more. It's about being intentional, thoughtful, and maybe even a little more deliberate with our words, both online and offline. Big thanks to our expert for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure. Always happy to geek out on some good career advice.
And to you, dear listeners, for joining us. We'll be back next time with another stack of insightful reads, ready to uncover those hidden gems of knowledge. Until then, keep those communication skills sharp.